And I think that is what we want to discuss here. Now, I want to share an experience from 2011 when I had the opportunity to listen to our former President Abdul Kalam. He was at the IEEE Sections Congress receiving an award from the IEEE, and he made a brief, award acceptance speech. And his focus of that 10-minute talk was calling upon IEEE and its members. And he mentioned that IEEE as an organization with such a big and wide reach and having 400,000 members, you have the big potential to actually change the world. And he literally called upon IEEE to launch initiatives, right, where we can have focused strategic efforts which can actually solve the world's problems. Now, he believed in that. And I think, that was big inspiration for me. I completely believe in the potential of this organization and our volunteer network to actually do, bring in a change, right? What kind of changes? There are different ways we can go about doing things, and I'll talk about that. But I want to set the context here. The context of this presentation is, the belief that, yes, we as a network, if we are strong enough, I think we can launch strategic initiatives, which can actually do something useful. Right. So, and again, as a background, IEEE, has been working towards this. From an organizational perspective, in 2010, IEEE established a committee called as IEEE Ad Hoc Committee on Humanitarian Activities. Right. Now, all of us know that our tagline is advancing technology for humanity. Right. So, why are we talking about that? Is this organization all about just doing charity and direct humanitarian work? No. When we say we are interested in advancing technology for humanity, it means multiple other things, right? We are purely interested in advancement of technology, right? That could be for a direct humanitarian cause, or it could be for business objectives also. We as an organization believe that if technology advances over a period of time, certain quality of life problems get solved, right? So only because of the advancement of telecommunication technology, today, people in rural areas have access as connectivity, as part of communication, right? They're able to communicate. Now, we have played a very critical role, as an organization, enabling creation of technology and disseminating technology. We have played a very critical role in advancement of telecommunication technology. And telecommunication has affected humanity, quality of life. And that's why we say we are advancing technology for humanity, not because we just want to do charity work, but we also think as a network of volunteers, we can initiate strategic, direct humanitarian efforts that can have direct impact. And this has been happening for quite some time within the IEEE. I'm not sure how many of you know the background dating back to 2006, 2004. There were several initiatives launched, but all of them were independent. So in 2010 and 2011, there was a massive effort to bring together all of these initiatives under one umbrella. And IEEE established a committee called Humanitarian Activities Ad Hoc Committee. I had the opportunity to be on the committee in 2010, but I've not been directly involved in the last 3 years. But this year, via site, I'm getting involved. So the background is this: yes, IEEE wanted to be highly strategic about our involvement in these activities around the world. So recently, we worked closely with the United Nations and signed some kind of an MOU, which is clearly stating our interest to work closely with United Nations. Now, I won't go into the details of what we are doing with UN, but clearly there is we are on the same page with UN, and we want to do things together, and we are doing things together. So the slide, which I'm pointing to, I'm looking at the slide which says global challenges to fight and UN Millennium Development Goals. So UN has identified these goals, as part of their General Assembly, and for countries, United Nations countries, to take it up as a mandate for them. Eradicate extreme poverty and hunger, education, gender equality, child morality, and several other things, as you can see on the slide. So these are specific goals identified by the United Nations, and we as an organization, want to focus on these as well. So I'm moving to the next slide, which has this big question: can IEEE volunteers actually help? And that's where I set the context. And we strongly think yes, we can. right? We can, work on initiatives, be highly strategic and actually initiate efforts which can help contribute to these different goals that is identified by UN. Right? And I'm not saying that we are just following some other organization. No, UN is a very credible organization which has been doing a lot of research on different problems faced by people around the world, and they have identified very focused goals. We as an organization, we are partnering with them and saying them, yes, it makes sense for us to follow that path and say that, okay, let us also initiate, these strategic activities which can focus on those goals, right? So when you are looking at this, right, what is defined as humanitarian? A simple answer for you is anything that can contribute to these goals, contribute to solving problems identified by these, can be termed as humanitarian. It could be education, it could be direct, use of technology in some kind of humanitarian project. Okay. It could be global development, it could be multiple of these things. But you need to identify if a project can be categorized as humanitarian, and it's up for you to do the research. But I'm just trying to give you pointers over here. So I'm moving to the next slide, which has a quote from the UN Secretary General. I know I'm talking too much of UN here, but this is important in this context, and I want you guys to listen to that. So this slide says, this is the quote that is coming from him. He says, as we celebrate the impact of volunteers on our world, let us remember the many places they are needed, in war zones and classrooms, in hospitals and homes, wherever struggling people seek a helping hand. So this message should come across very clearly to all of us. The core of this message is, yes, this world needs volunteers. Only profitable companies which actually wants to realize business objectives cannot only solve the world's problem. Yes, profitable companies have actually solved a lot of world's problems. Telecommunication is the best example that I gave, right? Search, access to information, right? This solved, most of the world's problem, right? Or many of the world's problems. These were built by profitable companies. But the message over here is that profitable companies alone cannot solve all of the world's problems. Volunteers are very much needed in this world. And you have a statistic there which says, just from US, 61.8 million Americans contributed so many hours of effort, which is estimated $162 billion. That's a lot of effort, right? So a network of volunteers actually help pushing this world forward and help solving these problems. So where does IEEE come into play, right? So if you look at this whole thing, if you think back and say, which is that network which can actually play a crucial role in deciding which technologies or where and how technology can get used in solving these problems, I think it has to be IEEE. IEEE has to be leading that effort because we are the largest, representation of engineers around the world. Literally, the next biggest engineering organization is the ASME, which is 100,000 members. We are 4 times bigger than the next biggest organization. So there's no question about the fact that IEEE has to play the leading role in, telling the world or letting the world know how technology has to be applied for humanitarian causes. So this is the picture. Volunteers are needed, to solve some of the world's problems. And in many places, if we use technology, you can accelerate solving these problems, right? And who can come and advocate how to use technology? It has to be a network of engineers. It cannot be just individuals, but organizations which represent engineers, which are actually which has leading engineers as its representatives, has to be advocating the world on how technology has to be used. Let's say if UN has to make a decision on how technology has to be used in Africa for rural electrification, I think IEEE has to be the advisor there, right? We are not going to be the people who are doing work on the ground, but we can play a very big role as an advisory, organization because we have the necessary expertise. And that's a very, very key role in this context of volunteering. So this is the message that I want you guys to get. Why volunteers exist in this world, and what is the role of volunteers in this world to solve actually some of the pressing problems of this world, which cannot be solved by profitable or business objectives-based initiatives. It's a simple reason. I can give you examples, right? So we funded, part of the EPICS committee, we funded a project that focused on building some kind of Android-based device, which is gesture recognition-based device that was used by a school that was focusing on helping children with some kind of a disability in a rural part in Andhra Pradesh. Now, this team of IEEE volunteers actually built this device. They deployed the device, tested it. It was successful. And the NGO who was working with the school actually spent money to buy 100 more Android devices and port that application and give it to all the children. Now, if you, just as an example, right, if you take this specific problem, this would not have been solved by a profitable venture because there is no opportunity to make money there. But here is a group of 4 volunteers who actually went there and said, we have an idea to solve this problem. And they used technology to solve it. And why they were needed? Because the NGO who was operating, in that effort, the NGO which was running the school, trying to help these children, they did not know how to use technology, right? So this is how the puzzle fits, guys. Okay, there are people who are trying to help the world, in these different initiatives, but many a time they are not aware how to use technology. That's where this organization can actually chip in and play a very crucial role. There are, in fact, initiatives around the world, and I'm leading one of the initiatives in India where we want to bring this into the educational system as well. We want every engineering student out there, as part of the engineering curriculum in 4 years, to do one project which is humanitarian focused. There is a specific educational objective, and also, of course, you give back to the community, right? It's an overall learning experience. So there are multiple things that IEEE is actually doing. But I want to again draw your attention to, this specific initiative called SITE. I just spent all the time trying to set context and trying to get your attention on why you have to do certain things. But now let's get to the question of how you have to do this, right? What kind of an organization that we're trying to build that can help you do these certain things, that can give you the necessary support infrastructure as part of the IEEE organization so that you can go ahead and do all of these things. Be it some kind of a funding, be it some kind of a legitimate organization status that is involved in this effort, be it connections, right? So if you as a group of volunteers have to do something, have to lead or initiate efforts, I think all of us need this support structure. And as part of SITE, that is our aim and objective, to create this support structure, like a student branch or a student branch chapter that can actually help you do these activities, right? So I'm on this slide which says, IEEE has already several volunteer-led initiatives. This is just naming a few of them, but there are a ton of these initiatives that are led by volunteers at all levels. Corporate board, region sections, student branches, societies, everybody is doing these stuff, right? But still, it was not an organization which was actually coordinating all these efforts. And there is a specific reason why coordination is required. Because I don't want this team in Hyderabad to be actually putting an effort to solve this problem if a team in Colombia has actually solved it, right? So coordination is required because there is sharing of knowledge that is required. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So I'm moving to the slide which says, why SITE, right? And I think I just answered that question. It's a dedicated organization of IEEE members interested in activities that can have direct impact on humanity, that can focus on one of these larger goals or problem statements identified and actually initiate activities, strategic activities around these problem statements. So the prime charter for this organization called SITE is to engage the members. Of course, you are not restricted to engaging only the members. You can bring in more people into this network who are non-members of the IEEE also. But what we are saying is our primary focus should be members, because our membership base is the immediate potential for us to actually source people who are interested in these activities. We should immediately reach out to them, and that should be our primary focus before we actually reach out to a larger, engineering audience who are non-members of the IEEE. So our charter is to engage them in existing IEEE programs, and to engage them in other, new sustainable projects that can have direct impact on community, and also in activities that inspire, enable, and connect. And I'll talk about that in the next one.
So why SITE? Prasanna, just a minute. Sorry to cut you through, but we've got another 5 to 10 more minutes to the max.
Sure. I think I'm done. I'm rushing through the slides. We'll finish this. I'm going to skip most of the slides in the end. Okay. So I'll take 10 minutes from you. Okay. So why site? Pretty much it's just continuing the same pointers. It provides visibility to volunteers and allows scope for collaboration. So that people, let's say in South America, know that somebody in Hyderabad is actually doing something like this. And I can tell you that it's still a problem statement today. Today, if I want to know how somebody has solved this problem for cognitive disabled children, and if anybody has actually solved the problem, I do not know. There aren't enough publications, or there aren't enough forums that are sharing this knowledge. It's all just lying in silos in different parts of the world. So we think that's something that's very important. Now, and we also want to create this inventory of all these volunteer groups and projects that's happening around the world, because we think if Madras section site is doing something, it will be important and useful for somebody in North America to know about what these guys are doing, because they might want to get inspired and do similar things in other parts of the world. So sharing of information is required, and a coordinating body or organization can only do that, right? And several other reasons listed. So I'm going to the next slide, which says site's major goal is to create opportunities, and we understand that 90% of all the development effort is to primarily benefit the economic top 10%. So I'm just referring to business initiatives or profitable initiatives, right? There is this, we need a group of people who can address the needs of the bottom of the pyramid. So if you want to know more about this, you can find out from Amartya Sen's work about bottom of the pyramid and what is the kind of opportunity that exists over there, for which he was actually awarded the Nobel Prize. So goals of sites. I'm moving to the next slide. So specific goals: to bring together members and IEEE OUs working or who intend to work in humanitarian fields, and to encourage and promote them to do these activities. And one of the primary goals is also to increase awareness, to IEEE members and engineers at large about the potential, and the opportunity out there to improve quality of living, standard of living. To engage closely with non-profit organizations who are actually involved in this effort, and associate ourselves as technology advisors or partners who can actually give the fitting, technology inputs for a better impact, right? And in general to work with the global engineering community and probably other engineering organizations out there. Now, so moving on further, bringing more focus. What do sites do? Yes, I think I'm just repeating these things over there. We do a lot of activities and projects, right? So, but I would like to skip this slide because it's repetitive. Going on further, site activities overview, categorizing site activities. So this is what the committee came up with. We had a lot of deliberation on this, and we said site or special interest group on humanitarian technology. And what is this special interest group? It's just a group of volunteers who are interested in doing something like this. And they should do 3 main things. They should inspire, enable, and connect. Inspire is to let people know, right? It's as the word would self-explain. It's about letting people know the kind of opportunity that exists over there. Inspire is mainly educational. It could be contests, workshops, but all of this is focused on letting engineers know that, look, here are the problem statements around the world, and this is how you can contribute, and this is why you should contribute. That's inspiration. Because we see that many people have idea, they want to contribute, but they just don't know, right? So President Staker, IEEE President Peter Staker wrote an article in Institute saying, calling upon everyone, saying all of us should contribute to humanitarian activities. And there were several responses to his article saying, hey, you know what, I'm interested, but I don't know why, or I don't know how to do it. Can you give me pointers? So we think SITE as an organization should actually engage in this activity to inspire and guide people on how they can contribute. Okay. So best example is what Madras section SITE did. They had, and of course, you have all the best people out there on the ground today who actually executed this. So this is something that I think got a lot of visibility, and more than that, a lot of impact. And I'm sure you'll get to hear about this, or you have probably heard about this in this event. Now, I'm moving on. Site activities enable. I just moved three slides later. So, so I said inspire, enable, and connect. So enablement is actually moving one step further apart beyond inspiration, actually enabling people, educating people to a level where they can actually start contributing, right? So you heard from Ranjit yesterday about teacher and service program. This is one of the best enablement activities that we do, right? Where we actually get volunteers, put them in a workshop and give them the necessary skill sets, so that they can go back and do more of this training with school teachers. Now, I had the opportunity to be in a TISP workshop in Colombia, and there was really a good amount of interest over there. One other example is Science Camp that was hosted by site from Kerala section, right? So there are a ton of other examples that I could give you, but in the interest of time, I'm just skipping that. But the essence of this message is, site as an organization should do these different kinds of activities, right? They should do activities that can inspire people, like the Solar Alien Initiative, or they should do activities that can enable people to, have a focused effort where they can actually contribute. They know what to do. Okay, I understood that, okay, electricity or energy is a problem in this country, and solar energy is the best way to solve the problem in the long term. Solar Alien Initiative was highly educational in that perspective. Of course, all of this I'm talking only from my observation. I could be wrong in drawing observations about that initiative, but from what I've understood, I think that was highly educational, right? Where people came and built things, built these solar lamps and things like that. Now, I think to some extent it was enablement also, right? Now, probably what next could be done is actually, give them focused inputs on how they can take this to the next level. Probably how they can build, a company out of this, which can actually start doing some serious solar work, right? So that could be one of the sessions that we could do as part of site, which can actually enable them to do more focused effort. So this is just a concept, guys. Please understand that, right? There is no hard and fast rule saying this is exactly what you should do. But conceptually, the committee debated and said, okay, this is how site should work. But the final goal is actually to promote these activities which are sustainable, which actually have an impact. It is not enough if you just educate people and leave it at there. No, it doesn't help. What you actually want to do is to actually enable and handhold people to a point where they actually start doing initiatives that are really seriously generating impact. And that should be the final goal of any initiative that we do. And site is no different. I'm moving on further. I'm going to the slide which says site activities connect. So I think one of the most important pieces in this puzzle is to enable good connections, right? So can we connect these interested volunteers who want to do these initiatives with industry, with government, from where they can get the necessary funding and the other support infrastructure to actually launch big initiatives, right? If somebody actually wants to seriously get into the solar industry, can we actually connect them with the energy department, right? And do multiple other things that can actually help them, sail further. So, and again, I'm just drawing examples from the same initiative. I'm sorry about that, but I thought this is exactly in context and something that could easily, I can send the message across to you guys. So there have been multiple other examples, right? So the best connection is IEEE has been hosting a lot of conferences. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard about the Humanitarian Technology Conference that we host, and the ARTEN Humanitarian Technology Conference, the Global Humanitarian Technology Conference. The next edition of ARTEN is actually happening right here in Madras section. So these are events and activities where we actually aim to connect people with other interested parties, be it other volunteers, government, or industry, who can actually help volunteers take their efforts and initiatives to the next level. So until that happens, our goal is not achieved. Please understand that. Whether you initiate site in your section or student branch, you should keep doing all of these and handhold volunteers to a point where they can actually start delivering impact. Impact is the only final goal for us. There's nothing before that. So multiple other examples, in this context. So many of the other slides are actually repetitive. But I think I would like to go to the slide which says site project funding application, right? Now, I think one other thing that I want to notice, so again, to go back to the basics, site is an organization. How to form a site? You need to, fill a form which is online, and you need to have 6 IEEE members interested to form the site. Meaning you have at least 6 people, either from your student branch or section, who are interested in doing these kind of activities. It has volunteers. So you get their signature like any other, process to form IEEE student branch chapter. You get their signature and submit it, and in no time your site is established, and you're eligible for funding for projects. And there are a ton of other things that you can do. There is a fellowship that we initiated where if you're doing some real serious activity, you want to fly you down to GSTC and actually get a lot of exposure out there. So we actually awarded funding for about 8 fellows from around the world to come to Silicon Valley later this month to participate in GSTC. So a lot of things happening, and we really want to strengthen this organization. We are aiming to give a site membership sometime in Q1 or Q2 2014, right? So as part of membership, we actually want to give specific benefits. So in the long run, very clearly, we want to build an organization of IEEE members and engineers who are interested in humanitarian activities or activities that contribute directly or have some kind of a direct humanitarian impact. I'm done, right? So there are multiple other slides. I think I want to skip that because most of that is operational, and you would get most of that information from the internet. But if you're seeing my slides, Barnabas, I would like you to take this slide to a page which has some contact information, right? How to form a site. I think this is the most important thing over there. So make a note of the contact of this person over here, who is Holly Schneider-Brown. She's a staff in IEEE, and she takes care of all of the operations for site. So any questions, you can send it to her, or you can always, of course, send it to me as well. So my email is prasanna@computer.org, and I'll be really, really happy and excited to have a conversation with you if you are interested about site or doing activities, humanitarian activities, or activities that have some kind of a direct humanitarian impact. So with that, I would like to close, and I'm not really sure if there is time for 1 or 2 questions. If there are a couple of questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Guys, do you have any questions? Any questions on humanitarian technologies or on site? Yes? Any questions? Yeah.
So I'm currently working in a humanitarian team, and we are planning to implement rural electrification in some areas in Palakkad district. So can you tell me what is the suitable method or efficient method for proper electrification in a rural area?
Okay, so you should look at something like this. IEEE has an initiative called Community Solutions Initiative, CSI, which is powered by Power and Energy Society, or there are chances you've already looked at that. So they have followed a model called IDE, okay, which is part of the slide which I just skipped. So it is some kind of a franchise model. So what they have done is, you actually don't have to figure out a solution. People have already done it. So my sincere suggestion is, many people have engaged in efforts focusing on rural electrification, right? So there have been many models out there, many solutions that people have already figured out. So don't go into this path of finding out a new technology. In most cases, the technology is already there. You just have to operationalize it. And again, in many parts of the world, the problem is operationalizing and implementation, not actually the solution itself. Technology is actually very trivial in the context of humanitarian, right? But the thing is, technology reaching those people is the problem. So you should probably rather focus your effort on ensuring that the technology reaches the masses in whichever area that you're looking at, and not actually creating your own technology. That is first feedback. So look at Community Solutions Initiative from IEEE, CSI, and they have a specific model where they exactly tell you what to do and give you the necessary resources. And if you actually need money to deploy that, you write to me. I'll get you the money.
Okay. Prasanna, just a minute. Vinith would want to add something on this particular
Sure.
question.
So see, if you're looking at technology that you want to use, right? If that is what I thought you were asking, if you look at the place, you should probably put up a microgrid there. And depending on how electrified that place is, I don't know if it is a tribal place that you're talking about, if there is tribal. And is there any nearby electricity grid available there or no? No grid. You don't know. So you should look at all that first and then decide the sources of energy. Today, most of the microgrids, if you read up in India, will be in Bihar and in Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. So most of them are solar, but depending on the livelihood. So for example, if you go to Uttarakhand, Uttaranchal, you will have pine field. You will have pine field and all that. So there is a lot of bio waste is available. Then you can do a biogasifier. So the source has to be dependent on where you are putting up your thing. The grid has to be a microgrid. Depending on how close your electricity is, you probably can either tie it into your electricity grid or keep it standalone.
Thank you, Vinith. Any other questions? Any other questions? Apart from implementation, execution of your project, core technical things? Okay. So thank you so much, Prasanna.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for the
Yeah.
opportunity. I really appreciate
It was
that.
great to spend your late night with us. We're indeed very, very grateful to that. Thanks a lot.